Marshall in the middle.
Welcome back to another edition of the NBC show. We got Ranger Nate with us today. He had it back by popular demand. He had to come on back in, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. It's great to meet you. Like I was telling you a minute ago, I watched the show last week with Ray, man. I was like, or with Will there. I was like, I got to get with Ray on this. Put my 2 cents in with him, man. We see eye to eye now.
Right, Roger that. Airborne all the way. Top, first on Marshall, how you doing tonight, man?
If I was any better, I'd have to be twins.
I know that's right. Hey, so this episode tonight is brought to you by Penny A. Cox, Esquire. You reach out to her. She's better than Morgan & Morgan in all of your law needs. So check it out, man. Tonight we're talking about the State of the Union. That's the main topic. There's some subtopics we're going to bring up on it that kind of coincide, but we'll save that to after. Guys, tell me, how do y'all feel about last night events before I spill into it? Because I can go on a rant. What you got, Randy, Nate? How you feel about the state?
Man, I watched the whole thing from beginning to end, and then of course I watched all the secondary shows afterwards, and then all the day on the news and all that. And I don't know where some of these commentators on these news networks come up with all this. They were getting bored and all this shit, man. I'm like, bored. I was like, man, that was General Hospital stuff right there, man. It was getting crazy there for a second there.
Right.
It kept me locked in.
Sadly, we have this situation turning into a Jerry Springer's episode every year. At this point, I feel like we're dealing with petulant children, right? Like there's certain things that you just cannot let slide. I don't know how these people are still being elected. We're going to get into that, but I want to give them some visuals on this topic, because this is one of the moments that stood out the absolute most to me, that summed it all up for me. Top, could you share? So in this moment, it'll speak for itself. I just want to get you guys' take on this.
So tonight, I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Kind of cut and dry, straightforward to me. Look at this. Half the room will not stand, will not budge. This is a direct question. Do you think that your duty is to provide and represent the American people or illegal citizens? Illegal, see, they even got me gaslit with the citizen talk. The illegal migrants. I don't know how you think this is okay or good optics to sit this out. What you guys think?
So I'll tell you straight up what I think is that they found a way to demonize the topic of anything that comes out of Trump's mouth. So whatever Trump wants to do, there's a group of people that just absolutely just going to oppose him because they have decided to demonize him as a person. And that's the only way they're able to continue doing this, in my opinion, is to do that to a person, because the idea is silly, right? It's obvious we stand up as a government for the American people first. Right. It's obvious, but they have in their head that they can do this because they have a greater good of standing against the oppressor of who they've decided that Trump is, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
It's just asinine. I mean, they have no good faith in our actual country. Like, they have no will to do right by the American people, and it kind of shows in this instance. it's one thing to say that a person is making bad decisions, making false stating false premises, however you want to look at it. But at the same time, you and I know, everybody on this panel knows that when you have a commander, they have a role to play, whether you personally like this individual or not, whether you think this person is a demon or not. You have a position to play underneath that commander, no matter how you feel. And if you don't want that commander to succeed, you essentially say you don't want the brigade, the company, the battery, whatever, to succeed. Am I wrong, Ranger Nate?
No, you're absolutely spot on, man. Yeah, that was the pivotal point of last night, and that's going to go down. You'll see that all over the midterms, man. You're going to see this. You're going to see them encapsulate that big time on almost every single political commercial you're going to see for the midterms coming up in November. You're going to see that scene that you just showed right there, where the entire half of that session right there wouldn't even stand up, wouldn't even clap. The only individual I saw on that side of the room last night was given any type of respect, if you will, towards at least towards President Trump, was Fetterman,
Right.
From Pennsylvania.
Right.
But let's be honest.
Isn't it insane that Fetterman is our guy on that side?
I thought Trump was going to grab him by the hand when he left and walk him over to the right side of the aisle over there. Just say, hey, why don't you take a seat here, man? Because you're on your own.
Right.
You're on your own. Because that's the way I felt, man. I'm like, how long is it going to take for this individual who's obviously got it together, man, and just, now make no mistake about it, he didn't stand up either for that particular portion. He actually admitted that today on the news, because I saw him this morning about 9 o'clock. He was on there on one of the shows there, and no, he absolutely he at least stood up for all the veterans and the victims, and for the majority of whatever was being spoken about. But yeah, that right there captivated that entire night, and it's all on film. And what President Trump did specifically, he wanted to put a picture on that and frame it for the American people to see it for themselves. That was a simple question, man.
Right. What worries me, right, is like it seems like individuals have these goggles on that just does not come off ever, right? Like these they call them the TDS, Trump deranged syndrome. But it seems like they have these goggles on that no matter what the scenario, circumstance, it's just like if it comes from Trump, if it comes from that angle, we don't want to hear it. All lies, it's bull crap. And sometimes they don't even listen to reason. It was last week when we did our show, Top. I know you said the guy that was commenting was your friend T Arable. The comment stuck with me all week. I mean, all week it just played over and over in my head, mostly because I had conversations with you off camera about me kind of getting exhausted, right? Like I'm exhausted with the back and forth. The back and forth. I've been on this side of the aisle for literally 15 years now as a black man. Back when Obama was in and I was against him. You understand what I'm saying? Like I've been on this side of the aisle for a long time, and it's been an uphill battle the whole way, from my family to friends to old colleagues. It doesn't matter. It's the onslaught has been nonstop. But one thing I can't do is not keep integrity. I can't lie. I don't like lying. I don't move in that direction or that way. So seeing all of this for the last 10 to 15 years nonstop. And then the guy in the comments said, well, all the media is owned by Republicans. I don't know if you remember my look when he said that. And it was no shot at him. It's just one of those things where it's like, you know what? I don't even know how to respond to that at this point, because there's more than enough evidence that shows that 99% of whatever Trump has going on in the media, if it doesn't come from Fox News, it's negative and spun in a way where they'll chop it up, mix it up, remix it like an old DJ back in the 80s, you know? And it's like they bypass all of the evidence that's there, and it's like they want you to defend an illogical starting point. You get what I mean? It's not even a logical starting point to even try to defend it. And it's like, I don't know what to say to this, you know? But I feel like we as a country have gotten to a point where we are looking at these things and not being able to be objective, you know? Like, if I'm about to fast forward a little bit because there's a lot of clapping. He just sits and claps for a while, right? I mean, everybody sits and claps for a while. Let me fast forward to the point where it really started getting crazy to me. This moment right here. Right here.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block
Where's the decorum?
of criminal aliens. In many
These
cases,
are representatives.
Murderers all over our country. They're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
1,000%. 1,000%. They should be ashamed of themselves. This kind of segues into that topic that we glanced over a couple weeks ago, about liberal females. That's a perfect example. They don't even know how to hold decorum. You know what I mean? They can't take this seriously. This is a serious matter that the people have elected individuals to accomplish. This is the will of the people on a larger scale. You know, and I just don't understand how people don't see the detriment in having representatives on the biggest platform in the nation politically acting this way. I mean, who wants that to be representing their district? You know, as a congressman, what do you get? What do you get as a citizen, and that being your representative? You know what I mean?
I think listen. Our country is very diverse. It is. It's very diverse, and the way our Constitution was written, to have the senators, and you know, they're 2 per state, and then have the congressmen that are in the House of Representatives. They're broken down to small districts. Now we can talk about gerrymandering. We can talk about all kinds of those things, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm a big fan of that concept. I'm a big fan of the turnover. You vote for those guys more often. I think that my local representative does a good job of representing me. I'm very proud of you know, how they do their job and what they do. I'm proud of our senator, both of them, Tommy Tuberville and Katie Britt. I mean, Katie Britt's she's from, you know, one town over, you know, the town I visited yesterday at the VA center. We played music, you know.
Right.
But when you see like Ilhan Omar, she's back there and she's shouting out things about, you know, you've killed Americans, and
Right.
it is. I'm not going to pin it on females or ethnic groups or even the left. What I'm saying is, over time, people have found it righteous or found self-righteousness in demanding that their point be heard, right? And I've heard it from all sides. I honestly have. But I'll tell you, the pinker or bluer hair you have, or the more rainbows that you're toting around, the louder your mouth is a lot of times. And I agree that used to be the hippie protesters, used to be the long-haired males that couldn't find a way in society, that demanded a protest, that didn't trust the government. Now we're seeing, short-haired females that are loud, and many of them seem to have a lot of angst and gusto, and in some cases testosterone. I think some of them have more than me, and I'm not being mean to those people. That's not what I'm not. But I'll tell you, there've been, woof,
They keep getting voted in nonstop. And the problem is with that, maybe perhaps the majority of their districts want that. They hate Donald Trump. And I'll give you an example. And if you don't mind me doing a little cursing here, just quote Tlaib, who was sitting next to her screaming her ass off too. But what was the first thing she did when she won her electorate there in Michigan? First thing she did, we're going to go in there and impeach the motherfucker. That's the first thing out of her mouth. And then she got a standing ovation in that club she was at, right in front of her little son. And then look what they were wearing last night on the lapels on their doggone shirt, man. My wife even looked at me. She goes, "Man, I hope there ain't no little kids watching this. They got F ice and all this shit on there." And like I said the other day to you, Will, they can't leave the Epstein thing alone. That's the only hope that they have left in their little column. But it's been the norm. But the problem is they don't realize that it's gone away because they're so used to this for the last 10 years against this man. It might have worked for the majority of the time his first term, but it's not working now with the American people. Nobody's buying into their bullshit. And that's just, I see it every day, Go ahead.
I want to issue a challenge to anybody that's out there that might be listening to this or watching this. If you think that you might be on the left or have a different point of view than maybe the three of us have, I would love to hear from you, because one of the things that is baffling to me is that I can't get anybody. And I've asked some seriously trusted people that I love to, hey, come on here, talk to me about this, talk to me about these things. And unfortunately, they have no platform to stand on except being anti-Trump.
Exactly.
And the thing that's so wild to me is that these people, all they do time after time, unfortunately, it seems, is to begin to be quiet or double down on vilifying Trump. And anybody that he can look, that all of a sudden everybody becomes a Nazi and a pedophile and a womanizer and alcoholic, and anything they can just blah 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 blah. It's like, the other day Pete Hegseth was up there, the Secretary of War was up there bench pressing 300 and something pounds, right? And they're like, look at our Secretary of War showing off, and it's like, come, dude, these freaking bench pressing a lot of weight.
They tried to say it was fake. They tried to say that it was AI, and then it was fake weights, and then I'm like, come on, man.
Did these people ever see him when he was on Fox News and he would do that Hudson River swim with the Navy SEALs and all that shit?
Right.
Bro, man, it's no shock I was in shape, man. He goes overseas. He goes to Germany or wherever he goes. He the first thing he makes sure that he wants to know what time PT, where PT's at. He does PT with the troops.
Right.
It's not it's not a shock. AI. Yeah, I heard that too, man.
You remember the video me, you, and Sergeant First Class Jones did, Top?
Yeah.
When we were covering him first being announced, and they was trying to slander him as an undisciplined alcoholic.
Yep.
Right. This goes directly against the narrative, and that's the reason why they have to stay in consistent mode about slandering the action, even if it's slight and something that they shouldn't even cared about. But they have to stay with their narrative. An undisciplined alcoholic could never bench 300 some pounds, right? After 40 years old, right? That's just something that we're not doing if you're an alcoholic not without discipline, you know? It's insane, man. The narrative has not stopped since 2015. I want to show something. Could you share this? This is an old video. This is an old video of me the night before the election last year. And I want to cover this little snippet because it kind of highlights a glaring factor of media bias.
All right. Let me get this on screen real quick. All right, here we go. So, is Donald Trump a threat to democracy? Right? By Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Zablat.
New
I
York
want you
Times.
to look at the date that I'm highlighting here. December 16th, 2016. Now, most of you that are watching this probably never even heard that term, threat to democracy, until January 6, 2020 or after, right? Nobody was thinking about that. Or were you? That's the question. Or were you? One of the oldest newspapers, I think the oldest newspaper outlet in our country, the New York Times, ran an opinion piece a month after he was elected for the first time. Now, I'm not here to try to plead this man's case. It's over with, right? As you know, it's over with. Whether he wins this election and he has another 4, he ends this 4, none of that matters. I told my wife in 2015, I said he was going to win that election. And I believe that he was going to win a second term. I also believe that there's a thing called the X Factor, which is what I'm on now, reaching out to you, and you're hearing me right now. The X Factor is this thing of ours called internet and social media. It's really been a fact. It's been a factor in so many different things. Whereas I think they utilized it really well to get him out his second term that I thought he was going to win. All right. I was 100% sure that he'd have another one. But I told my wife back in 2015 that he'll be the last Republican president until we see a collapse in this country, a total and utter collapse. And what does that look like?
All right, before we get into that part, that's a conversation for another day. But I wanted to highlight that December 19th, 2016, they ended up writing this hit piece on this man, and he hadn't been in office at all yet. He didn't do anything yet. The only thing he did was come out and proclaim the same thing Clinton proclaimed, Bush proclaimed, Obama proclaimed, and Reagan, that you can't have a country without borders. That's it. There was nothing else at that point. But ever since that day, nonstop from Russia. He pissing on beds. He's buying prostitutes. Everything under the sun this man was doing. And at that time, I wasn't a super Trump supporter. I wasn't hanging flags and all the other stuff that I kind of do now, right? But mainly, they drove me to being stronger of a Trump supporter. Back then, I was a Ben Carson guy. I was a believe it or not, I was a what's the guy's name? Ted Cruz guy. I was along those lines. I didn't even think of Trump until he won. And once he won, I was like, hey, that's what we got. You know what I mean? Like once he won the primary, I was like, hey, that's what we got. And I started telling, yeah, he's gonna win. He's gonna win it all because he's the avatar of what a lot of people are feeling right now.
Thank you.
You know?
Yeah, that first debate in 2015, that first primary debate, when he looked at what's the senator down there, Rand Paul, he looked at him right in his face. He said, "You might want to sit down and shut up for a minute because I've given you plenty of money for your campaigns and you can't." You know what I'm saying? I looked at my wife. I said, "That's going to be our next president right there in the United States." I said, he just annihilated all them guys, man. He took them all down, dude. If you remember that first debate, man.
Yeah. He was like a bull in the china shop. That's what we wanted. That's
Yeah,
what we were craving for at the time. Yep. And that's why he won the primary, because he spoke the loudest to, I don't know how to describe it. Some people want to try to box it in as white males, middle-class, blue-collar males, that this was that wanted Trump. No, I think it's all American patriots that really wanted Trump. And what I mean by American patriots, I'm not talking about this neo-patriotism that these liberals keep trying to act like they are. I'm talking about real staunch First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment. We hold dear to these things. We hold dear to the Constitution of the system that made us a successful powerhouse around the globe.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what being a patriot is about. Not trying to change it all the time and move to some different system because we think everything's better than what made us what we are.
I'm just real quick, and I'll let Will get in here. My big thing was we wanted a big change on the right. We needed something different because McCain couldn't get it done and Romney couldn't get it done. Now, you know why those two literally couldn't get it done? Because look who they were running against. Barack Obama. Okay? And going back to what you just said, the ethnicity and all that stuff, man, irrelevant. However, the Republicans like McCain, you know, rest in peace and all that, and I just said his name, man. Anyways, Romney, they caved. As soon as the left started calling them racist, talking about Obama, they caved and they stopped. Because if you remember Romney's first debate against Obama, he annihilated him. And then all of a sudden the race card got thrown in there and he shut his mouth and he tucked his tail between his legs and he crawled off the stage, and that was the end of him. Yep. So then we were starving for somebody like Trump to come in there and just say what it is, man. Let them call him a racist. He don't care. We know his past. Hell, like I was telling Will 1,000 times, man, I used to see him when I was a little boy getting off the school bus. I used to watch Oprah Winfrey with my mom, man, her show, and he was on there all the time, man. They were BFFs.
Yep.
You know all the pictures he's got with all them guys, man. They all, when he was donating them to them, they loved him. Even the Clintons loved him.
Right. Rest in peace, Jesse Jackson. He actually endorsed him as to running for president. Black man.
Yep.
You know, Jesse Jackson looked at him as a friend, called him a friend numerous times in interviews.
Yep.
Right. Like, I mean, these things are all new things that people are shuffling down our throats and acting like we don't remember yesterday. You know.
Thank you.
And I'm sick of it, man. I'm so sick of it. It's at the point, right? I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they were like, you know, the Black History Month celebration at the White House, Trump held last week, right?
Yeah.
There was some guy that said, you know, I understand it and I appreciate it, but I just hate how he's not a unifier. He doesn't unify. I interrupted him and I said, look, really, at this point, we're tired of even trying. People are people that are at the stage I am, we're tired of even trying. And I want to highlight, I want to segue into this hearing that happened in Minneapolis on the 19th. I think that a lot of us fail with our civic duty, not anybody on the panel right now, but just in general. We fail at understanding, like what Top was just talking about, your local politics, right? Understanding that dynamic and realizing, you know, because people ask, well, how do we solve for some of this? You know, I tell them, stop thinking about the macro and start thinking about the micro, right? It's about the same agenda that I was talking about with the Convention of States, which I talk about, you know, with secession stuff. It's kind of convoluted, but it all goes together. I want to play this real quick. This is a hearing based off of the issues that happened out in Minneapolis not too long ago, the deaths of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, right?
Yeah.
They are taking up a bill to try to criminally punish and investigate the law enforcement agents that were involved in these shootings. Now, I want you to see, of course, there's a minority that I'm about to play. A minority, not in skin color, but he is a minority, but is a minority in ideology in this Senate. So he's the only one opposing right now. I want you to hear this guy speak.
And remember what their crime was.
This guy.
What did
that
the
is a
maid
guy.
do? Well, according to her wife, she stopped to support a neighbor. She had a whistle. They had guns. There have to be consequences for this. Support the motion.
I'll let that play out real quick to the next one.
Further discussion of the motion? Representative?
If anybody watching are from Minnesota, and you guys stand on the side of conservatism and American patriot, pay attention to your representative and support this guy. I think he needs more acknowledgement and I think we all should start uplifting our representatives, even if we're not from the state, but if they're doing the right thing in the face of adversity, right? And this is what I want to highlight.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to make an attempt to ground us back in the actual effect of statutory language, which I know is relatively boring compared to calling people murderers and such, but it's kind of a necessary part of our job to understand what it is that we're actually doing. So the underlying bill, and this is going to become redundant because as Chair Novotny pointed out, we're going to be having the same conversation on Tuesday, but we can say all the same things over again if we need to. All the bill does, as I read it, is it just adds federal agents, federal officers to the list of folks who the BCA can investigate under state law. Okay, then what? There's nothing in here that compels the federal government to cooperate in any way with that state investigation. In fact, there can't be anything in our laws that compels the federal government to engage in that investigation, to cooperate with the state investigation, because we have this thing called the Supremacy Clause. Exactly. What you're going to hear a lot about this session, I can already tell. 11 bills involving state preemption of federal authority. You really only need one, by the way. You only need the one that says we're going to amend the Constitution. We're going to secede from the Union. We're just going to become a rogue state. That's the one you really need if you actually want to affect being able to decide at the state level what federal law enforcement can do under the enumerated powers that they've been granted by the states, which includes immigration law and the enforcement of immigration law. So I'm not quite sure what we're gaining here if we were to vote yes on this urgency, and even if we were to pass the bill, it would have no actual tangible effect on the reality on the ground because the state cannot compel the federal government to do a damn thing. Certainly not in this area, not in an area of enumerated powers. This isn't a 10th Amendment issue. The federal government has jurisdiction over immigration law. So what are we doing? Now I can speculate as to what we're doing. We're furthering the pattern that we've seen over the past few months of making statements, 2-3 times for the word murder tonight. Just sat through an hour and 45 minutes of one-sided testimony in education finance with no member discussion, where the entire unstated premise was that there's no legitimacy to federal authority. We don't have to abide by federal immigration law. It's completely illegitimate. If they come to our state, it's an invasion, it's an occupation. People are being kidnapped, not detained, not arrested, kidnapped. Rhetoric like that, and the stance that your party has taken from top to bottom, from Governor Walz all the way down, that there is no legitimacy to federal authority is nothing less than insurrectionist rhetoric. And that is why, take your moment.
Give it to him. Husband.
I got mine. Take your moment to digest that. Look it up. The number of lawyers that are laughing at me right now. Do you understand how the Supremacy Clause works? Do you understand what insurrection is? It's the undermining of federal authority. January 6th, thank you so much for bringing that up. You guys went on and on and on about that for what, 4 years?
They still are.
Yeah, it's still celebrated as a holiday on your side of the aisle. One riot on one day It's an attack on democracy. You ran an entire election on it. For months and weeks on end, we have had the top law enforcement officer in this state, the governor in this state, the mayor of Minneapolis, and many of you actively undermine federal authority when it comes to immigration law. And acting upon that rhetoric, people like Renee Good and people like Alex Preddy put themselves in harm's way. They did what you
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Point of order. Point of order. Personality is not allowed in debate. We are not going to allow you. We are not going to allow you to impugn community members who have been murdered by the federal government. How dare you? That is shameful.
That is shameful.
If you want to be recognized, please stand, and you will be given your opportunity to speak. Representative Hudson has the floor. Representative Hudson.
Salute her.
I'll give you a couple seconds.
He's smooth, man.
Attorney General Keith Ellison is on tape encouraging people to, quote, put their bodies on the line.
Right.
That's what Preddy and Good did.
Yep.
Blockading public streets, refusing lawful orders to get out of your car from a legitimate federal law enforcement officer, putting the car into gear, and then running into an officer.
Right.
That is what happened. Now, I'm not saying it was a justified shoot. I don't know. To your point, we need an investigation for that. But you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to call federal law enforcement murderers or put forward bills that violate the supremacy clause or continue to engage in this insurrectionist rhetoric that there's no legitimacy to federal authority when it comes to immigration law and pretend like I'm on the right side of history. You are not. Calling people Nazis, Gestapo, fascists, because we're enforcing the sovereignty of our own country. Astounding. Let's get to the vote.
I recognize the member from Hennepin.
All right. So, as you know, there was a ton of follow-up. There was other representatives that you can just imagine, the green hair types, that were going out and spilling a whole bunch of false premises. Is this kidnapping, Ranger Nate? Is it kidnapping illegal immigrants?
No.
You know, it's like it's the false dichotomy that they try to set you up in the argument.
Well, Ray, that's the problem. They lie. They're so comfortable with lying these days to the American people and to their constituents that it's the norm. They can look in the camera and literally lie to them and saying that these federal agents, ICE, FBI, DEA, you name it, are going in to schools and kidnapping little kids, man. It's a wrong answer. It's not happening. But the problem I have with it, and the scary part of all this, is the people out there that do believe it.
Right.
Because what scares me is there's people out there that don't listen to conservative radio or don't watch Fox News or Newsweek or whatever. They don't know. There's people out there that only watch ABC nightly news or NBC nightly news, man, and that's what's scary. They don't know.
Right. I mean, how many times have you been in the airport and you're just sitting there waiting on your flight and you look up, it's nothing but CNN on every TV.
Every one of them.
You know, every single one. And we all know, I mean, oh my God, CNN is so obnoxious. I think Scott Jennings is the only guy at CNN that actually comes through and is being a draw and showing people the other side. But they hate him. They hate him. They try to steamroll him, filibuster him. They jump him. You got him on a panel with Abby Phillips that constantly interrupts her, and she's supposed to be the moderator, and she's lying all the time about every topic. And it's like, we can't get a shake in the media, man, at all.
No.
But the result when we acknowledge this is, oh, well, Republicans own all the media. It's like, this is such a disingenuous argument. You know, it's such a disingenuous argument, man. You know, and it's hard to make sense of it, to even come to terms and talk with people. You know, we had a show last week where me and Top, we were talking, and I kind of explained about the issue with cult of personality. What are these people going to do when Trump's gone? You know what I mean? Like, are they not looking forward? They're not building any kind of identity other than Republicans and Trump are Hitler and Nazis.
Yeah.
These people that are easily influenced between 18 and 25 are likely going to mature a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And probably regret some of their easy, you know, running off into the wilderness of these fairy tale ideas. You know, Reagan used to say something that used to get me all the time. He said that it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. They just know so much that isn't so. You know?
Yeah.
And I think all of this kind of sums it up. Is the same reason when I first saw him say these liberals, they won't get on and talk their opinions because they can't really stand on it. It's all emotionality. And it's all they're bad, they're bad, they're bad, they're evil, they're Nazis, they're homophobes, they're racists, they're bigots. And it's like a whole bunch of catchwords instead of substance. And can we talk? Can we start at some relative realities and talk? And we can't, because they're so gaslit by the media for these years and the education system for these years that it seems like we can't get through to them. Hence why I keep speaking on the fact of this divide happening in our country that can't be reproached. Not that I want the divide to keep going. Got to throw a snub in there, Top.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk now. I'm ready to talk now. So one of the things that we're doing this for is to begin having discussions with other people, right? At times, especially me and you, Ray, when we were together 10 years ago or so, we were close. We were tight, man. Look, I looked at your doggone nappy ass face.
Top. That was 20 years ago.
I looked at your nappy ass face every day for a while. You know, I had to see you every day, you know, and we had a blast. We had, you know, good times. You know, Nate and I were marching up and down Ardennes, you know, at the same time together. We've jumped those same drop zones and been through some of the same things. One of the things that I think we have a challenge to do is how do we connect with our neighbor so that we're able to see that we're on the same side? And short of flying a Trump flag or wearing a MAGA red hat or something, I mean, that's an easy way to signal it to some people, but that'll turn you into you're liable to get a grenade thrown at you, you know, if you're not careful in some kind of places. We have to find a way to not vilify our neighbor, no matter what. Look, I went into my daughter-in-law's house today and was trying to make a joke with her, right? But I needed a premise for the joke. And so I thought the premise of the joke would go well because I said, you know, Nancy Guthrie's missing, Savannah Guthrie's mom. That's been in the news lately, right? You would think that a mid-20s young mom, she had no clue, had not heard of it. I don't know. Oh, really? I hadn't heard of that. And I'm just like, so I take that as just a starting point to say that we are so disconnected as Americans. When I was a kid, we would watch Dan Rather or Walter Cronkite, you know, news, and it was a unifying thing. And I was also part of the generation that watched us get TVs in our own rooms, right? And then cable came along, and now it's you know telephones, you know, that we're always into. The more we're separated. You know, it really started with radio, which actually was a gatherer, was one of the first gatherers. And then you had TV that was a gatherer. But as TV branched out and you got VHS tapes and all of that, it became this first step away to what I call the virtual world. When you watch a TV show, when you're at a play and you're in person, you're watching a play, that's not the virtual world. That's the real world. But if you watch a TV show on TV, that becomes the first step into the virtual world. You end up putting the VR goggles on. I bought the VR goggles. I don't know if y'all have used those or not, but I bought the VR goggles and put them on, try to play games. And I realized that I had enough trouble in the real world. I didn't need to go mess around in the virtual world because that was not fun. It was not fun. But I think that's, you guys each have in your own way heard me say this before, but I believe that one of the best ways to treat this life is a simulation theory, a game theory. One of the best ways to think about this life is that love is the only thing that builds. That if you're not loving, if your mind is in some kind of way trying to cheat, lie, steal, hate, anything, that eventually it'll be like you built a house on sand and it'll go away. But if you build a foundation on love, on true love, like the love you have for your kids, then you're doing something that's true and it's right. And it's the concepts that for most of us apply that Jesus taught us, right? But they're universal concepts. Buddha, Confucius, all kinds of other people have all kinds of thoughts that are similar. But for me, and probably for us, if we connect in the connection of Jesus, like in Jesus' name, then we have a true understanding of that, like that spirit that can join us, right, in love. We've all been in a spiritual environment where we felt that Holy Spirit move through. We've been there before when the hankies come out, and the Spirit is felt. I really believe that's a real thing. And so what I would love for us to find a way is, instead of talking about all this division, talk about ways that we can come together. Talk about ways that we can get past it. I'm going to tell you, we almost dismissed that whole group of people that wouldn't even stand up as not even allowed to have a seat at the table. It's like, if you can't even support American constituents as being the first people that you should worry about, then you're not serious. You're not, even worth talking to. And it blows me away that they think that anybody would vote for that other side if they didn't hate somebody so much to have that. It's really wild to see that, right?
Let me interject real quick, Tom. So I work, my internal spiritual compass works a lot like what you described, right? I was raised a Christian. As you know, we've traveled all over the world. I've had some harrowing moments. I had soul searching moments, especially, downrange. You come back, your head's out of whack. You need it. While you're there, your head's out of whack. You need it, right? A lot of my original beliefs were shattered, rebuilt, shattered again, rebuilt, and shattered again, right? Like, think that's the path of man. But one thing that has remained constant and gotten stronger over the years is my belief in karma and the two forces, just like in Buddhism, yin and yang. Jesus speaks of reaping what you sow, the karmic nature, right? The reality of there are two sides and two forces of this. You have good and evil. I call them creation and destruction. All right. These two sides are always going to exist to one degree or the other. If you look at the yin yang, you got one side is bigger and then it shrinks up. In ages, I think the pendulum is swinging back and forth during ages. You got ages where weak men have created bad societies and horrible societies. And you have the horrible society create strong men that bring continuity back, usually through the discipline of spirituality and unity, right? But in our today's day and age, the idea that love will get us through, I think, no disrespect, Top, is naive. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it says there's a time for everything. There's a time for war. There's a time for peace. There's a time for sorrow. There's a time for happiness. There's a time to reap and there's a time to sow. There's a time for everything. And sadly, this is not the time for love. It sounds harsh, and I don't want to be as divisive as it sounds, because you know my heart. But the reality of it is, some of these individuals that's in our country right now, raping and pillaging our citizens, the barbarians are at the gate, and we're thinking about loving them. But that's the argument. I don't want to love the barbarians. I'm not saying that these people are evil. I'm not saying that people aren't chasing a better life and they want to, like I've explained, my father comes from a third world country, Haiti, right? I understand the desire to want more and want better for you, your descendants, but we have to, if we can't get on the same spiritual page, because we're such a melting pot, we did it too much and too fast over the last century, we got to hone this thing in and get law together first. We have to have an understanding and a congruent understanding of what are our land's laws. Do we all stand for these laws at the bare minimum? Because if we can't stand for our laws and see eye to eye on our laws, you can't be a libertarian. You can't be a conservative. You don't have a country, and you have nothing to unify behind. And the problem is what you're seeing with these two sides, where sadly, all over the country, you're seeing these type of people that want to sit down, stay getting elected. Virginia, you got the top cop in Virginia now. He just got elected after it came out that he was out here wishing death on Republicans, wishing death on his opponent's kids, wishing death. You have these same people that vote him back in because they feel that way. Ranger Nate just exposed Rashida Tlaib about how she came in off the rip. I want to prosecute him and impeach this motherfucker, right? And guess what? She's been elected 3 terms now. 3 terms since 2018. California, people's houses burning all down, and now they're elected officials, while these people are trying to build their houses back in the Palisades, are now taxing their citizens for shrub debris, shrub problems. And it's insane. And for some reason, these same individuals suffering from the things they voted in will not listen to reason. They're not listening. They don't want to hear what we got to say. They don't care what we got to say. They don't care about our point of view. And the first thing they're going to do the minute you try to give them a reasonable reality, like, look, I've been locked up. When I had to go to prison away from my kids, I was not kidnapped. But you are telling me to my face that these illegal immigrants who broke into the country are just undocumented citizens and they don't need to be separated from the kids like mine, like I was. They broke the law on entry. They broke the code. They broke the agreement immediately. We keep trying to move and compromise. That's why they think they can say undocumented citizens, because we thought it was a bad term to say illegal immigrants. It hurt too many feelings. If we can't speak in reality, we can't speak in love. If we can't speak directly to the ills of the society, we can't speak in compromise. Because one side clearly does not want the solution or the trade-off that is the solution. There are always trade-offs, right?
Yeah.
So
when your point going back to the good and the evil side, man, we've tried so hard. I mean, everybody, Trump himself has tried so hard. He's had meetings. He's had this. He tries to reach out.
Yep.
But they get up and they storm out.
Right.
They call him every name in the book. And
Right.
they're not even trying to hide it no more. So when is it time when you just like what they're doing now? The Republicans now, especially in the Washington, D.C. and the White House, and specifically, they're doing this now. Hey, that's fine, man. keep talking. I'm going to govern, and I'm going to help the American people. Okay,
Right.
So you're no longer allowed at the sitting table with me no more, because I just don't give a shit no more. What you got to say, what you want to call me, and social media. I still have friends. Don't ask me why. I got people like, why do you keep being friends with these people? And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to make my point. Of I got some hardcore lefties on there that I get on there, and I just make my point. I don't call any names. I don't do anything. I make it professional. And I'll be damned. It only takes about not even 10 minutes, and I'm already called a pedophile protector because I'm a Trump supporter.
Right.
That you lost me already. So now you lost me. So I'm done talking to you, and I'm going to move on to see what I can say to help the American people or the people around me.
Right.
You lost me. When you start calling me names like that, or you start calling me a racist, and it's the wrong answer, man. You lost me, and that's the problem. They keep doing it so often that now we just had our third assassination attempt, if that's what you want to call the last one, the third one. But I mean, you don't go to the president's house with a shotgun and a can of gas, man. I mean, it just ain't going to happen. But yeah, because you know why? It's become the norm. You have lawmakers in Washington and lawmakers at the state level calling this man a racist, calling him a Nazi, and they've been hearing it for 10 years. So they're getting a green light from these lawmakers and these elected officials on a daily basis.
Yep.
And so it's become the norm. Hey, you want to kill Trump? Go ahead, man. They'll get you out of prison. The AG will take care of it. You ain't even probably have to go to court. That's their mentality.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. They've been propagated up to believe that their worldview is the normal worldview. And anybody that doesn't understand that needs re-education. I was watching an interview from a podcast called God Save America, or no, Dad Save America. And he was interviewing a female, a Chinese female that grew up in Mao's China. She's older, and she was giving her expression of how this is the exact same thing with the communist Cultural Revolution that happened in China. And sadly, our constituents are too ignorant and not caring enough to understand what this ideology is doing to us internally. It's like you speak to somebody and let them know, like, yo, do you realize that everything from destruction of the nuclear family to eliminating God out of our schools and our culture, to abortions, to division between white, black, divisions between male, female, construing and confusing people's ideas of what they are. Oh, I'm a man now, and you were born a little girl. All of this stuff is how they use divisive tactics to create bourgeoisie and proletariat classes, the underdogs versus the oppressors. And these ideologies open up so many of the deadly sins humans ail from. We ail from gluttony, we ail from lust, we ail from envy, we ail from wrath. All of these things are triggered internally by the ideologies that they're giving us at a young age. We give our kids to this system at the age of 6, and they spend more time indoctrinating our kids for the next 12 years than we do get a chance to actually do anything with them ourselves for the most part. I know there's a resurgence, just like me and my wife, we homeschool, but they poo-poo that. They make that seem like that's the wrong avenue. And ultimately, overall, you look at the scenario. I got a situation. I was on Facebook about a week ago, and there was a post somebody put, what does a MAGA Trump supporter not have in their house that a liberal does? And all the liberals in unison in the comment section was a college degree, a college education, a college this, college that. And it's sad because in my mind, I'm like, what are you talking about? First off, I'm a Trump supporter. I got a bachelor's degree. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how that is a thing to say, but it shows how they think about us,
Yeah.
how they look at us, and they believe that we need to be re-educated, just like Miles China. And it's sad. They don't realize that they're the ones programmed to think this way.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, even though I have a bachelor's degree, I've never used it for anything.
Right.
I've never took a resume and used it to get a job in any kind of field. And I've made my living, not to brag, 2023, my company, BSR Total Logistics, we had a gross revenue of $1.2 million. A gross revenue. I did that here and learning how to drive trucks. I took my entrepreneurial savvy and I figured out a way to exchange value and be the best service that I could. BSR, bringing service right. Best service I could to any individual who needed my service. These are core tenets to American individualism and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
This is what we be teaching our kids. And it's sad that they think that the only route to these type of things is through an indoctrination program that they can't even use. In my Indeed profile, I have so many applications coming from so many people that got masters and all type. I'm like, I can't hire you guys. Way overqualified to do anything in my business. I got a little trucking company, a couple heavy haul RGNs, Lobo. I don't. What am I do with your master's degree, man? You know, so it's one of those things where it's like people don't understand that they think that the credentials of a degree makes their opinion on politics and everything else under the sun matter when they have no real world experience, which also is one of the problems that Reagan was talking about when he said intellectual elites in Washington, thinking that they could just run our lives from Washington, not knowing what the hell going on. They think those credentials make them the most important people in the room, no matter where they go. Yep. And that's the sad part of why we can't unify for real, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's exactly it. They think they're elitists, and then it dwells down into their constituents and the people that support them. And they're not even people that really support them. I bet you half these people that are anti-Trump couldn't even tell you who their two senators are for their state. But you're right. So the first thing they want to do is you're uneducated, you're white trash, or just trash, period. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a redneck, whatever, man.
Right.
And it's like, oh, and then when they find out, like later on, you tell them, well, I've written so many books and I got these many degrees, or because you're calling me this and that, but you don't even know me. And then they come out and they just start attacking that. Oh, you were a school teacher. Thank God my kids weren't sitting in your classroom. And you just got to come right back and say, thank God they weren't. You're absolutely right.
Right.
Probably attention. If you're going to act like that, it's probably the same concept back at you. But whatever, man.
Let's talk about the State of the Union again real quick. I'll tell you something that I really was impressed with was the presentation of the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Yes.
The heroes and the way they did it, and just the thought of that Chinook helicopter hovering there while the guy's shooting him, and he holds his spot where, it's just amazing story. So I thought that was really, really done. I thought the State of the Union was, look, I think Trump is funny personally. Yeah. And so I enjoy watching him.
He's fun.
If nothing else, he's like licking an ice cream sandwich, right? It's like it's not necessarily that nutritive, but it is got cookie wafers on the outside. I mean, come on. So when I watch Trump, I like to play like the drinking bingo game or something with Trump or something. But he's funny. He's a funny guy, and I'm really a fan of the policies, the things that he's doing, the Trump RX program, the Trump Invest program, whatever that is for the kids. Yep. I mean, that's solid. That's cool stuff, man.
Bro, since his inauguration this year, it's been nonstop. Bow, 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 bow. it's so much that he's done that I think is so positive. I mean, there's little things that I have qualms about, something in the budget, some things that I didn't understand because I don't have the purview to responsibly be able to judge it properly. You know what I mean? It's some need to know stuff. But ultimately, every day, he's been the most accomplished Republican president we've had in my lifetime. Easily. You know, and I mean the granting permission to tech companies building their own power plants. Genius, freaking genius. You know, it takes the drain off of the local power plants. I mean, just so many things all year has been happening, and it just saddens me that people on one side choose to look at all this stuff as bad. I just don't get it. I really don't.
What he's done that no other president in my lifetime. I'm 54 years old, and I've been through. I counted the other day. I've lived through 11 presidents. Okay, he's the first one in my lifetime, literally, that has kept every single promise that he campaigned on, and then some.
Right.
You know,
or at least had good faith attempts at keeping them all.
Right.
You know,
and the only obstacles that he's ever faced are the opposite side of the aisle in Congress, in the legislative branch. And as you just recently saw, which I loved last night too, I thought that was cool. The judicial branch of government, man, when they stopped the terrorists last week, and he did bring that up last night. And I give him credit; he looked right at him in the face too, man.
Yeah. And
I was, you know how the camera zoomed on him,
right?
They were turning beet red, man. And so he's not afraid of anybody. He's got nothing to be afraid of.
Right.
He just comes around and tells the American people, okay, I got shot down for this, but I got plan B and I got plan C, and nothing's going to change. I got your back. And that's why he's so popular with us.
Right. Hey, Top, can I run an ad real quick? Penny A. Cox.
Yeah.
Penny A. Cox. Reach out to her for all of your law needs. And before we start finding our wrap-up topic, I just wanted to give people a message from the past from one of our great presidents that was in the camera age. Is a little segment. Ronald Reagan. I don't know how people stand on him or feel about him. The more I've looked at him and absorbed his presidency, he was before my time. So the more I've studied his policies, his bills, his executive orders, the more of a fan I have become over the years. And this speech he predicted what Democrats will look like last night in the State of the Union.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not too long ago, two friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down. Man's old age dream, the ultimate in individual freedom consistent with law and order, or down to the ant-heap of totalitarianism. And regardless of their sincerity, their humanitarian motives, those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. In this vote harvesting time, they use terms like the Great Society, or as we were told a few days ago by the president, we must accept a greater government activity in the affairs of the people. But they've been a little more explicit in the past, and among themselves, and all of the things I now will quote have appeared in print. These are not Republican accusations. For example, they have voices that say the Cold War will end through our acceptance of a not undemocratic socialism. Another voice says the profit motive has become outmoded. It must be replaced by the incentives of the welfare state. Or our traditional system of individual freedom is incapable of solving the complex problems of the 20th century. Senator Fulbright has said at Stanford University that the Constitution is outmoded. He referred to the president as our moral teacher and our leader. And he says he is hobbled in his task by the restrictions of power imposed on him by this antiquated document. He must be freed so that he can do for us what he knows is best. And Senator Clark of Pennsylvania, another articulate spokesman, defines liberalism as meeting the material needs of the masses through the full power of centralized government. Well, I, for one, resent it when a representative of the people refers to you and me, the free men and women of this country, as the masses. This is a term we haven't applied to ourselves in America. But beyond that, the full power of centralized government, this was the very thing the founding fathers sought to minimize. They knew that governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people. And they know when a government sets out to do that, it must use force and coercion to achieve its purpose. They also knew, those founding fathers, that outside of its legitimate functions, government does nothing as well or as economically as the private sector of the economy. Not too long ago, a judge called me here in Los Angeles. He told me that a young woman who'd come before him for a divorce. She had 6 children, was pregnant with her 7th. Under his questioning, she revealed her husband was a laborer earning $250 a month. She wanted the divorce to get an $80 raise. She's eligible for $330 a month in the Aid to Dependent Children program. She got the idea from 2 women in her neighborhood who'd already done that very thing. Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything. Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. Now, we have so many people who can't see a fat man standing beside a thin one without coming to the conclusion the fat man got that way by taking advantage of the thin one. So they're going to solve all the problems of human misery through government and government planning. Well, now, if government planning and welfare had the answer, and they've had almost 30 years of it, shouldn't we expect government to read the score to us once in a while? Shouldn't they be telling us about the decline each year in the number of people needing help, the reduction in the need for public housing? But the reverse is true. Each year, the need grows greater, the program grows greater. We were told 4 years ago that 17 million people went to bed hungry each night. Well, that was probably true. They were all on a diet. But now we're told that 9.3 million families in this country are poverty-stricken on the basis of earning less than $3,000 a year. Welfare spending 10 times greater than it was in the dark depths of the Depression. We're spending $45 billion on welfare. Now, do a little arithmetic, and you'll find that if we divided the $45 billion up equally among those 9 million poor families, we'd be able to give each family $4,600 a year. And this, added to their present income, should eliminate poverty. Direct aid to the poor, however, is only running about $600 per family. It would seem that someplace there must be some overhead. Now we declare war on poverty, or you too can be a Bobby Baker. Now, do they honestly expect us to believe that if we add $1 billion to the $45 billion we're spending, one more program to the 30-odd we have, and remember, this new program doesn't replace any, it just duplicates existing programs, do they believe that poverty is suddenly going to disappear by magic? Well, in all fairness, I should explain there is one part of the new program that isn't duplicated. This is the youth feature. We're now going to solve the dropout problem, juvenile delinquency, by reinstituting something like the old CCC camps. And we're going to put our young people in these camps. But again, we do some arithmetic and we find that we're going to spend each year just on room and board for each young person we help, $4,700 a year. We can send them to Harvard for $2,700.
Mr. President is like that still.
Of course, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting Harvard is the answer to juvenile delinquency. But seriously, what are we doing to those we seek to help?
That's great,
I think Reagan was a great American, a great patriot, and a great president. I mean, that was just a little short, and I just wanted people to understand, man, we lose the freedom here, we lose it everywhere. There's nowhere to run. And
nowhere to run to.
All three of us here knows what it's like in foreign countries, know what it's like in certain systems, and we don't want those systems here. Nobody wants those systems here. Even no matter how people want to, brag about the Nordic areas and all, we're subsidizing these people, man. We subsidize. That's why we're pulling out of it now. It's time for everybody to start carrying their own weight and let them really test their ideas over there without us covering their protection and their security. And let's see how those ideas work when they got to fund their own military. I think we as a nation need to understand the privilege and the honor it is to be born here. And yes, it's not fair. It's not fair that the world couldn't be born here. But we inherited something from those that come before us that we should actually honor and take seriously. And part of that taking seriously is maintaining its continuity too. You know what I mean? From my mother's lineage, from slavery to your all of your parents, everybody that was born here had a role here and a hand in the culture, the building in some kind of way. And in my mind, if you don't cherish that, that's the equivalent of you having a father that left you and your siblings property, and when he passed, some of your siblings just want to go sell it off and take the profit and go run off and do some stupid stuff with it, without your say. And I feel like when you look at that State of the Union address, you see the divided siblings in that Congress Hall, I think it speaks a lot to, you see one side that appreciates the inheritance that we got and the freedoms we enjoy and understand the privileges that come with being here, and one side that is so convoluted and mixed up with stuff that has nothing to do with America. And their ideas are all anti-America. And those two sides can't coexist, sadly, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, Reagan was spot on back then. Hence why President Trump keeps that in the Oval Office, his largest picture of previous presidents right next to his desk there is Reagan's picture. I mean,
right. Right.
He said it, man. Right. We lose it here. There's nowhere to go to from here.
Nowhere to go.
It's scary, man. It is scary. Can you imagine? Go ahead.
Have you guys heard the lies about our job market? It's not necessarily lies, but the fact that we don't have a booming job market, or we haven't grown in the job markets. Have you guys heard those lies that the left are trying to push?
Every day.
I got some statistics on the job market. I don't know if we still got time. What are time looking like, Top?
Yeah, bring it up. Let's run through it. One of the things that I think is interesting about the job market is it's obvious around me they are building like gangbusters, big things, warehouses, all kinds of big infrastructure. Now there's houses being built in my neighborhood and stuff, and that's cool. But I think that these jobs they're talking about are about to really start showing up.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's one of those things. It's like in any business, your initial investments, you don't get an ROI immediately on that. And I think there's too much of an onus on the not understanding from people of how this thing actually works, how money actually flows, right? Like how to start these industries back up, bring manufacturing jobs. They think that the minute that all of these companies started, contributing millions and billions of dollars to come back to America, that immediately was supposed to happen then. Like, no, you still got places being built. I'm delivering all types of stuff. Construction ain't stopping. I mean, this is one of the most booming years for heavy equipment that I've seen in a long time, in at least the last 7 years, 6, 7 years, easy. And it's about to, I think it's about to change course very fast come 2027, in my opinion. And the sad thing about it is midterms is coming up, and we don't have those results at the moment, and a lot of people don't know how to really look forward. So I do want to put these statistics out real quick that kind of backs what Trump's is saying in the State of the Union about our job market, and kind of dispels a little bit of the narrative that these leftists are trying to say, that we have a net loss of 181,000 jobs in 2025. So could you share my screen, Top? This is a quick search. Anybody can search it up. 2025, the U.S. federal government experienced one of the largest workforce reductions in decades. About 317,000 federal civilian jobs cut across all agencies. This figure, reported by the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, includes both targeted layoffs and voluntary separations, such as buyouts and deferred resignations. So in general, we have the issue here that people say, oh, we lost all of these jobs. We lost 317,000 jobs, and not realizing that most of the people that voted for Trump elected for him to come and start cleaning up this bureaucracy. Doge was a advocated thing that we wanted. We want to try to be more physically responsible. We can't keep pie in the sky and saying, oh, we'll spend whatever. But the laymen, the average people out here, that's especially on the left, don't understand how to balance budgets. They don't want to try to understand this, so they spin narratives. The other part of this, right? The U.S. economy added 181,000 jobs in 2025, reflecting minimal growth compared to previous years. In 2025, employers created 181,000 jobs over the entire year, a significant decline from the 1.46 million jobs added in 2024, and far below preliminary estimates of 584,000 jobs. This represents an average of roughly 15,000 jobs added per month, including the labor market was largely stagnant throughout the year. I want people to understand something. Inflation over the last 5-6 years was at 7%. Price index was at about 3.5%. These numbers are so integral into how jobs in the private sector work. And to be making such cuts as we're talking about, 317,000 jobs, and then still have a net positive of 181,000 jobs, you have to realize that the 317,000 jobs are actually added to that 181,000 jobs. These numbers mean that we are actually growing in the midst of slashing and redoing the agreement internationally. The NAFTA deals, the trade deals all over the globe, the leveraging that is happening. And in the midst of this restructuring, instead of going bankrupt, we find ourselves at record low inflation and job growth in the midst of fixing all this and these so-called taxes on the individual companies. We're growing. I think people need to hold their horses, relax a little bit, and stop trying to spew the fact that the country is destroying itself. I think there's other things that's happening at play outside of policy, like technology, robotics, AI, things of that nature, that is actually having more of an impact on the job growth than policy. You got Amazon that laid off over 200,000, 300,000 people. You got UPS trying to pay people $150,000 to just leave because they got technology to replace them now. They're giving them $150,000 severance packages. That's insane to me. Like, they're paying people $150K just to leave, and you're talking about drivers, truck drivers.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're finding ways that they're streamlining due to technology. So people have to realize that has nothing to do with policy. That has everything to do with innovation and what's happening. And instead of complaining and crying and trying to be obstructionists, I think we need to actually figure out how we move forward practically and logically with the new technology that is existing and coming, and actually support the people that are actually looking for solutions rather than just filibustering all the time. This is getting insane. What you guys take on that?
So look, totally agree. We got to get forward, get moving forward. No, stop the filibuster kind of crazy crap about just finding anything to yell at. That's anyway. So hey, good episode, man. Ray, take us out, man.
Hey, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. It was another edition of the NBC Room, Nuclear Biological Chemical Room. We're assessing these threats. We're addressing them. We're trying to figure out some solutions. We're talking. If you guys disagree, come up the next time, next Wednesday. All right, come on up. Say your piece. Me, Ranger Nate, Will, we're all here. We're ready to rock and roll. We're ready to discuss these things. But let's try to keep the disingenuous out, and how about talk about the ideas and principles, and let's leave the cult of personality out. I don't want to argue about Trump. I don't want to argue about these ideas of racism and just stuff that aren't rooted in what's happening. Let's talk these numbers. Let's talk what these policies are and why they're good or bad, instead of all the emotionality. This is the NBC Room, man. I appreciate you guys for showing up with us. Ranger Nate, thank you for showing up. Top, you already know it. Love you, man. We'll do it again next week, man.
All right, we're out. Y'all don't go nowhere.
Marshall in the middle.